there's usually a lot of confusion about the kind of like the coverage that a planner provides. Like they don't really understand what like like a full planning service is and how it's different from like a semi like
Or
full.
like a day of or partial. Yeah.
Yeah, like a partial, like because there's like full, partial, and then the day of. Can you like elaborate more about that?
Oh, yes. So, I mean, I think the important thing to know is every planner runs their business a little bit differently. So you're not always going to be, you know, you're not going to be able to compare apples to apples in all situations. And this goes for any small business. You know, everyone's got their own processes. But I think there's like kind of like three main categories with some like add-ons maybe is the way to put it. I think that's just when I'm like thinking of how we do things. So like on a smaller scale, you're looking at like a day of coordinator. When you say a day of coordinator, it doesn't just mean someone who's going to show up on the wedding day that you've never met. Usually there's some sort of like meeting a month before, a few weeks before, where they gather the information that they need in order to prepare for your event, and then it's their job to just make sure that the vendors arrive on time and that the timeline runs as smoothly as possible. So that's a day of coordinator. Partial planning, this is actually our minimum. We don't offer a day of coordination just because um, communication and just like the relationships with our clients are so important to us that we like to be fairly involved from the beginning. But we do offer something called, we call it maid of honor for hire. I always joke, I'm like, I want you to imagine you had a really good friend. You could just call up and be like, hey, Louise, like, I have a question. So it's essentially strategic guidance and unlimited consulting from the time that they book us up until 1 month before the wedding, where we step in kind of like a month of coordinator would. But what we offer is basically like guidance on kind of the order we suggest they plan their wedding, and then we help them put together a custom budget. We give them vendor suggestions, and they can reach out to us anytime. So we have unlimited consulting. They can have Zoom calls with us, email us, and we just kind of put it in their hands to reach out to us when they need help. But then ultimately they're responsible for reaching out to vendors and booking and everything like that. So that's kind of like a partial planning service. And then full service is where a planner is going to help a couple from beginning to end. And their job is going to be to correspond with the vendors directly. So they're still going to do things like come up with a budget plan to get a sense of like what their priorities are and what their overall vision is, and then they'll kind of help them through the planning process step by step, so the couple doesn't have to feel the whole weight of the project on their shoulders. Rather, they only have to focus on what the wedding planner is telling them to focus on at any given time, and then it's the planner's responsibility to make sure that the planning stays on track. So all of these should include the actual coordination of the wedding day itself as well, because that's the most important part. But something else to keep in mind, aside from those three main categories, is some planners also design weddings and some don't. And so that's something to think about. Like if you are really eager to have someone help you design your wedding, you want to find someone who specializes in that. And so when we work with our full service couples, we have a whole like third of the planning dedicated to helping them design their wedding. And that starts off with like lots of visual aids, so like mood boards and then design presentations, and then just really helping them visualize everything before we start locking down rentals and flowers. Because I mean, you can still book rentals and flowers and graphic design and all of those things without understanding exactly what they're going to look like together. But our job is to help make it cohesive, be on budget, be unique, like taking into consideration all these factors before they put money down on them. So yeah, I think those are kind of like maybe 4 categories to consider with planners.
That's so useful because I'm like thinking sometimes you end up booking a floral designer, you end up booking your decor, you book your graphic designer, but if you don't, some people just don't have that eye, to like see if it goes together, because
Yeah.
sometimes things individually look really good and then
Right.
put together it kind of feels a bit off, and
Yeah.
I feel like having someone to like help guide you through that is very helpful, because nothing is disjointed like on when you actually see it. And I guess just like what you said, the effort to plan and even the the investment involved is well worth it because it was like really well thought of.
Yeah, exactly. And we actually started offering like our design phase as an add-on service for our partial planning clients because not all couples need full service, but they often really care about the design. So we kind of have like an in-between service where they can hire us for the partial planning consulting, and then when they start thinking about the design part, then they can hire us on to help them create this concept for their wedding. So that's kind of a nice in-between option. Try and not have too much a la carte because then it gets confusing, but that one is just fun, so we can't help ourselves.